guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with a romance recommendation video for you that's kind of different than what I normally do. This is a recommendation video where I asked you guys for tropes you wanted recommendations for, and I would give you the books. So I went on my Instagram and asked you guys to ask me for trope recommendations, and I have a lot, so this isn't just one trope. I'm gonna give you one or two book recommendations for specific tropes you guys asked for. So I'm gonna go ahead and get to it. The first recommendation is someone asked for a Rockstar Romance, and I went back a couple years and pulled out my Erica Kelly series, which is the Rockstar series. I don't even know if this has an actual different name, but they are You Really Got Me, I Want You to Want Me, and Take Me Home Tonight, and all of these are fantastic. So this one I believe is the band manager, and she falls in love with her brother's bandmate because she like crashes with them and offers to help manage their band. In this one, she is like his PR babysitter. He needs his reputation fixed because he was caught doing something, and she comes in to kind of like babysit him. And then in this one, it is the band member and the personal chef for the band. So they're really fun, all about bands, and I really liked them when they came out, and I don't think I see anybody ever talking about them. Then someone did ask for a forbidden romance, and then someone also asked for a single parent romance, and I combined those two for One Hot Italian Summer by Karina Halley. This one I recently read, and this is also a slow burn. People ask for slow burn, but not by Mara Zapata. So this one, our main character is actually a writer, and I think I got a request for a writer romance as well. So she is a writer, and she has not written by herself, but her co-writer has passed away, and she doesn't know how to be her own writer in person without her co-writer. So there's trigger warning for grief and death of a loved one. But she is told by her agent to go and write in Italy. She's supposed to be writing this like women's fiction book, and so her agent's like, I have a villa in Italy, why don't you go and spend a month there and write and get some inspiration? And so she does, because she's from Scotland. The villa is actually occupied by a single dad Italian, and she cannot be with him for a specific reason, which I can't tell you because it's a surprise, but this is so good. It's definitely slow burn, and she doesn't want to be with him or like him because of the forbidden aspect, and she's trying to write, and I absolutely love this. And he has an adorable son who's like 10. I could not recommend this book enough. It recently came out, but I absolutely loved it. Someone asked for a vampire romance, and for that one, the most recent one I've read and loved is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer Armentrout. This one I've talked about a lot. It's one of my favorite books of the year so far. Our main character is a maiden, and she is waiting for her ascension, and she is like the favorite of the queen, so she has to stay in her room all the time and be tutored and always cover her face. And she kind of has this one night moment with this guard because she snuck out to this tavern, and then it happens that that guard is actually now part of her personal guard. So there are vampires, there's good vampires, there's bad vampires, there's different species of vampires, and it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. Then someone asked for a brother's best friend, which I do have a whole video for this, but one that comes to mind is Come Back to Me by Mila Gray. I really love this whole series except for the latest book I really wasn't a fan of. But in this one, our main character, I think she's like a senior in high school, and she has a secret fling relationship with her brother's best friend before both her brother and her brother's best friend end up going and being deployed, and so they have a secret romance, and they can't tell anybody because they don't want her brother to know, so it's also forbidden. But at the beginning of the book, you know that one of them has died. You don't know who has died, but it says in the beginning that one of them's died, and then we get her romance with the brother's best friend, and then catch up to where the beginning took place. So very emotional, but I really love this one. Next is fake dating, and I'm gonna go with I Think I Might Love You by Christina C. Jones. There is a little bit of fake dating in here, and it's really great. Our main characters meet and get off on the wrong foot, and then they end up having to work together because something that has to do with her volunteer hours. She has to end up working with him, and then he asks her to go with him to a like family event because his mom keeps on trying to set him up with someone, and he's tired of it. So they do fake date a little bit in this, but it is a novella, and it's really fun. I really enjoyed this one, and it's just a cute romance because they kind of don't like each other, but then they kind of do, and they have to spend time together, so I really like this one. Next, someone asked for a basketball romance, and I'm pretty sure everybody's already read this, but it is Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. This one is our main character's a basketball player, and he goes to a bar to watch some games and kind of instantly falls for someone, but she is taken by another basketball player. Definite trigger warnings for abusive relationships though, because that is huge in this book, but I really enjoyed it. It's forbidden as well because she's dating someone else, and I've only read this series as a basketball romance. I don't think I've read any other basketball romances, so if you have any, let me know, but I'm pretty sure the only basketball romance I see in the romance community is this series. So I've got a ton of other sports recommendations, but that's the only one I have for basketball. Next is childhood friends to lovers. I have two for these. The first one's another Kennedy Ryan, and it is Queen Move. This one, our two main characters literally grew up together since they were babies because their moms lived next door to each other, and they ended up really liking each other. And the night they decided to like explore their feelings for each other, I think like in 8th grade, and decide like, hey, we actually like really like each other, the boy had to move away, and so they don't see each other until a funeral, and things have happened in their lives, and it's really fun to watch them get back together again. So I would definitely recommend this if you want someone, they were best friends and they kind of like missed their chance to be together. It takes place over a long span of time. I also have Go Deep by Rosie Adams. This one, they are best friends, and I believe they've been best friends for a long time because there's a moment where he talks about like he kind of like lusted after her for a hot second and was like freaked out that he found her attractive, so then he never felt that way again. But she is a writer and she is lacking inspiration because she hasn't had a romantic relationship in like a year and a half, so she asked him if he can help inspire her for those steamy scenes, and they end up doing that and realizing they kind of actually like each other. So it is a really fun friends to lovers romance. Next is a high school romance with a bad boy group. I would say Dear Ava by Ilsa Madden Mills. I don't necessarily think that they're like bad boys, but they are the guys that like run the school. Our main character is sexually assaulted in the beginning, so trigger warning for sexual assault, and she spends the rest of the book trying to figure out who did that to her. But she is back after a year of leaving because people aren't very nice to her because of what happened, and she falls for the guy who's on the football team, and it's like not even really a enemies to lovers or like bad boy. He's actually like really sweet and nice to her, but he does have some best friends, and I really loved their characters. I also just read The Pier and the Puppet by B.B. Reed, and it wasn't my favorite, but there's definitely a bad boy group in there. And this one, our main character moves in to her mother's boyfriend's house. He's rich, and her new roommate, I guess, it's not even like housemate, they're not actually step siblings because their parents are just dating, but her mother's boyfriend's son hates her guts, but they kind of like each other, and he's got a whole group of friends and they like rule the school kind of stuff. Underrated romance. So for this one, Will You Be Mine by Rosie Adams. I loved this. It's also a fake dating, and they go fake date at a wedding because they're best friends, but she has had a bad experience with trying to fall in love with a best friend, so she's never wanted that with her current best friend, and then her best friend that she kind of like fell out with is getting married, so she needs to show him like, I'm actually happy and I'm not mad about what happened. So she brings her current best friend as her fake boyfriend to this wedding. It's so good. I think the beginning was a little slow. Once things started getting going, I was like, this is so good, and it was really fun because she was so adamant about not getting hurt again, but he really liked her. So this is one where the guy actually has feelings in the beginning and the girl doesn't, which I like that. Next one is a celebrity romance where they knew each other as children, and for this one I would say To Love Jasonthorne by Ella Mays. This is so good. It's also a brother's best friend because it's her brother's best friend that she grew up with, and she really liked him, and she said something like really embarrassing about liking him when they were little, and then he ends up moving away and becoming a celebrity, and she's actually an author, and her book gets picked up and it's inspired by him, and he ends up playing the actor in the book, which is, they're like, he's perfect. It's like, well, yeah, because she literally wrote it about him. But they're reconnected and it's their romance, and it was really fun. I love Ella Mays, and I really like this as a celebrity romance, and they used to know each other before he was a celebrity. Next one is an historical romance. The Soldiers Scourge by Kat Sebastian, I believe, is the author. This one, our main character is a fixer of sorts, so like nobility comes to him to fix their problems, and this one guy who is wounded from the war, so he has a limp, he comes because his sister went to see him, and he's like, what are you doing with my sister? Like, you need to stop talking to her. And he's like, oh no, I'm like, I helped her, and there's this new case he's working on, and they kind of end up working together, and it's really cute. I really enjoyed this. I wasn't a huge fan of Kat Sebastian's other historical that I read, that was but this one I really enjoyed and I would recommend. Next is a Bodyguard romance, and for this one I would say Royally Endowed by Emma Chase. Everyone talks about Royally Screwed and book 2, which I don't remember the name of, but this is book 3, and that is the sister, I believe, of the two guys in the series, and it's with her bodyguard, and he's been her bodyguard for a while. It's a little bit of an age gap, but I remembered really enjoying this. I listened to it on audio, and it's a bodyguard romance. Next is a small town romance, and I would recommend the entire Becker Brothers series by Candy Steiner. There's 4 books, and they're all brothers. They all have different tropes. So the the first one's age gap. There's also enemies to lovers. There is workplace, because one's a football coach and it's the new trainer on the team. We have friends to lovers. So there's a lot in the series, all tropes that you want. And it all takes place in a small town with 4 brothers, and they're super close with their mom. Their dad had passed away, and half of them work at a distillery, and it's really fun. I love this series, especially if you're looking for that small town kind of vibe. Next is age gap, and for this one I would recommend A Duke by Default by Alyssa Cole. And this one I recently just listened to on audio, and it was great. So our main character, she ends up going to Scotland for like this sword making apprenticeship, and the guy who runs the whole company is like 10 years older than her, and she's a new apprentice, and she ends up like trying to fix things with the company and like revamp their social media, and she's used to not being taken seriously. She's kind of like the mess up twin, because she's a twin sister who's like perfect, and she's the one that can never get anything right, and like her parents just think she's gonna go marry someone and be taken care of for the rest of her life because she has no worth. And so that was really sad, and so she's like, I'm not gonna fall for my boss because I'm just gonna show them exactly what they think of me. But it was really cute, really fun. I really liked how he like made swords, and they were really into like sword fighting techniques and stuff. It was a really cool premise. It takes place in Scotland. I would recommend it. Next is Love Triangle. So I have 2 recommendations. First is Something in the Way by Jessica Hawkins. I've only read the first one. I read it like 2 years ago, and I never finished the series, but it's a love triangle between this girl, this guy, and the girl's sister, and she's definitely too young for him when it starts, so it's a age gap, kind of forbidden. He's like working construction in the house in the neighborhood and sees her, and he is more with her sister because he's trying to deny that he likes her, because it's more appropriate for him to be with her sister. And bad things happen to some characters in here with the cliffhanger ending, so I need to figure out what happens next because it was a cliffhanger, but I haven't picked it up yet. But this is a really good love triangle. We also have the What He Doesn't Know duet by Candy Steiner. This one, there's 2 books, so you have to read both of them, but it is about a woman who's married, but her marriage has fallen apart, and trigger warning for loss of a child, but she ends up seeing this guy that she had a huge crush on come back into her life, and nothing had ever happened between them in the past, but like he's back and he's like, hey, like I like you. So she has to decide whether she wants to be with this new guy who's showing her he wants to be with her, and her husband who her relationship is kind of crumbling with. So very good. I love Candy's angsty books. Next, someone asked for second chance historical romances. So the first one I have is Again the Magic by Lisa Kleypas. This one is about McKenna, who is a stable boy, and our female main character, whose name I'm blanking on, but she is the daughter of an earl, and her dad basically forces her to break up with him and send him off to go work at the docks and like have an apprenticeship so that they're not together, because she needs to marry someone of her station and just get over this thing she has with him. And so he has to leave, and she doesn't see him for a long time, and then he comes back from America, and he's very wealthy, and he's back in their lives, and he thinks that she didn't love him and that she just like threw him to the side because she made him think that so that he would leave. And something had happened to her right after he left that she's very self-conscious about, and that's affecting her letting him back in now, but it's their second chance at love. It was really good. I also have Lady Isabella's Scandalous Marriage, and this one, she is married to Mac, but trigger warning for loss of a child. They eloped, so they were like super scandalous in society, but then after 3 years of marriage, she leaves, so she scandalizes society again. Mac is actually an artist as well, so I really love that about this book. There's a lot of mystery and intrigue in here, but Mac is determined to win Isabella back, and it's so good. I really love the series. This is book 2, and I would recommend reading them in order because book 1's my absolute favorite, but this is really good. The next one is pretty specific, so it was a medical caretaker for someone who has an illness, and so the first one I would say is Behind These Walls. I think it's by J.L. Berg. One of the nurses, they end up falling in love while she's in the hospital. So this one was really emotional. I did enjoy the audiobook of that one. And then also I have Stay With Me by Mila Gray. This one, he is actually a wounded soldier and he is blind, but there's no medical reason for why he's blind. He just is, and so he's staying in their medical hospital, and our girl is like doing an apprenticeship at the hospital and takes an interest in him, and then they kind of fall in love. So she works for the hospital, he's a patient there. Really good, but a lot of like PTSD, military things in here, so beware that before going in. He is like the only survivor of the people that he was with at the time that the accident had happened, so It's really, really good though. This is my favorite in the series. Next is Forced Proximity. So for this one, I would say Credence by Penelope Douglas. She is pretty much trapped in the woods, in a cabin in the woods with her 2 step cousins and her step uncle because she's never met them. Her parents are dead. So she has to live with them until she's 18, and it always like snows them in the winter, so nobody can leave their mountain, and she has relations with all 3 of them until she decides who she wants to be with. So really, really fun Forced Proximity if you're into that. There's also I Want to Be Where You Are by Christina Forrest. This is YA, but I just read it and I really loved it. Our main character wants to be a ballerina, but her mother doesn't want her to move anywhere, but she has a dream of dancing for this school conservatory by this really famous black male ballerina, and so they are having tryouts over spring break. Her mom's going on a cruise with her boyfriend, so she decides to sneak off to the auditions, but her neighbor sees her going and pretty much blackmails her into letting him come. So they are in a car the whole time, and something happens where they have to spend a few more days than expected together in hotels and at people's houses, so they are forced together for quite a few days, and it's really fun. He's definitely the bad boy, misunderstood, they have a bad past, so I really liked it. Next is a romance where the main characters want to kill each other. So the first one I have is A Kingdom of Dreams by Judith McNaught. She is Scottish, so she lives in Scotland and she's at a convent with her sister, and they are abducted by a duke, so I'm pretty sure he's actually British, and she is like, let me go, like I don't want to be kidnapped, because I think it has to do with like their conflict with her father, and she literally tries to kill him multiple times in this book because she wants to escape. So I really enjoyed this one so much. And then the other one I have is only one character wants to kill them and then can't because they like really like him. That's The Hunter by Kerrigan Byrne. He's actually an assassin and he's told to kill her, and there's other assassins that like are trying to kill her too. She's an actress and she's a single mom, and he is trying to kill her, but then he really likes her. And there's trigger warning for just like childhood trauma. He watches his mother murdered in the past, and so he has a very rough childhood that he's still dealing with, so he feels like he can never love someone, and he's used to being this like cold-hearted killer, but he's like, why can't I kill this woman? And it's really fun. I would recommend. And the last one is Arranged Marriage, and so this one is really fun. I have 2 contemporaries for this. Zenny by Rebecca Weatherspoon is an arranged marriage because it is her grandmother in her will says that Zenny has to marry this big Scottish man that knew her grandmother in order for both of them to get their inheritance from her, and they end up falling in love, and it's really fun. I really like this one. We also have, it's more like Marriage of Convenience in this one, but it's Marriage for One by Ella Mays. Our main character has to get married because in like someone's will, I don't remember whose will it is, a family member's will, she was engaged and the guy left it to her husband, and her fiance like broke up, so she needs like a husband to get this, I'm pretty sure it's the property that she wants a new coffee shop to be in, and so this lawyer ends up like calling her up and striking a deal because like he'll get something out of it, so they end up marrying. It's Jack and Rose, super slow burn, really, really good though. And they have a marriage of convenience. And those are recommendations for you. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you like this style of video and if you want me to do it again. I would love to hear. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.